In 1999, at the peak of his power in Hollywood, Oscar winner Joe Pesci shocked the entertainment world by walking away from a $50 million career to pursue music and solitude. But his recent ghost-like appearances in Palm Springs and a heartbreaking performance about Alzheimer's reveal a man who found something more valuable than fame. Peak of fame. By 1990, Joe Pesci had reached the absolute summit of Hollywood success, commanding respect from audiences and critics alike, while earning millions of dollars for performances that would define an entire era of American cinema. His breakout role as Joey LaMotta in Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull back in 1980 had already established him as a serious dramatic actor, earning him a BAFTA award and an Academy Award nomination. But it was his explosive performance as Tommy DeVito in Goodfellas that would cement his place in movie history forever. The role of Tommy DeVito, the psychotic and unpredictable mobster with a hair-trigger temper, showcased everything that made Pesci a unique force in Hollywood. Based on real-life gangster Thomas D. Simone, Tommy was a character who could make audiences laugh one moment and terrify them the next, switching from charming storyteller to cold-blooded killer in the blink of an eye. Pesci's improvised scenes, including the famous "Funny How" sequence where Tommy confronts Henry Hill about calling him funny, came from rehearsal sessions where Scorsese encouraged the actors to explore their characters freely. The director took the best improvised moments and worked them into the final script, creating some of the most memorable dialogue in cinema history. When the Academy Awards ceremony arrived in 1991, Pesci's win for Best Supporting Actor was met with thunderous applause. But his acceptance speech became legendary for entirely different reasons. Walking to the podium with characteristic confidence, he simply said, "It's my privilege, thank you," and walked away, delivering one of the shortest Oscar speeches ever recorded. The moment perfectly captured Pesci's no-nonsense personality and his discomfort with Hollywood's grand gestures. That same year, Pesci proved his incredible range by starring as Harry Lime, the bumbling burglar in Home Alone, a family comedy that became a massive worldwide phenomenon. The contrast between his menacing Tommy DeVito and his slapstick criminal Harry couldn't have been more dramatic, demonstrating an actor who could seamlessly move between intense drama and broad physical comedy. The Home Alone franchise would go on to earn hundreds of millions of dollars globally, with Pesci reportedly earning between $2 and $3 million plus a percentage of profits for the sequel, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Throughout the early 1990s, Pesci continued building his reputation with memorable performances in JFK, My Cousin Vinny, and the Lethal Weapon series, where his fast-talking character Leo Getz became a fan favorite. His collaborations with Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese continued with Casino in 1995, where he played another volatile gangster based on real-life figure Tony Spilotro. By the late 1990s, Pesci was commanding up to $3.5 million per film, making him one of the highest-paid character actors in Hollywood. The breaking point. The moment that would change everything for Joe Pesci happened on what seemed like an ordinary day at a golf course, where he had gone to find the peace and relaxation that had become increasingly difficult to achieve in his daily life. Golf had always been Pesci's escape from the intensity of his acting career, a place where he could step away from the volatile characters that had made him famous and simply be himself. But on this particular day in 1992, as he approached the first tee and prepared to take his swing, something deeply unsettling occurred that would shake him to his core. Standing over his golf ball with his club drawn back, Pesci suddenly froze in the middle of his swing, overwhelmed by a terrifying realization that he couldn't identify who was about to hit that ball. In that moment of confusion, he found himself asking a question that would haunt him. Was it Leo Getz from the Lethal Weapon movies, David Ferry from JFK, the psychotic Tommy DeVito from Goodfellas, the bumbling Harry from Home Alone, or Was it actually Joe Pesci himself? The boundaries between his numerous screen personas and his real identity had become so blurred that he could no longer distinguish where his characters ended and where he truly began. This identity crisis represented the culmination of years of playing increasingly intense and psychologically demanding roles that had taken a significant toll on his mental well-being. Pesci later reflected on this experience in interviews, explaining how the psychological process of completely inhabiting dark and disturbed characters had begun to affect his sense of self. The method acting approach that had made his performances so convincing and memorable was now threatening to consume the real person underneath all those carefully crafted personas. Beyond this personal crisis, Pesci was growing increasingly frustrated with Hollywood's tendency to typecast him exclusively as Italian-American tough guys, despite his desire to explore different types of roles and return to his original passion for music. He had started his entertainment career as a musician in the 1960s, playing guitar with Joey D and the Starleaders, and even releasing his own album under the name Joe Pesci. But his acting success had gradually pulled him away from the art form that had first captured his heart. The constant pressure to maintain his tough guy image, combined with the physical demands of his roles, was also wearing him down. During the filming of both Raging Bull and Casino, Pesci had broken the same rib, leading him to joke that great movies meant cracked ribs, while bad movies left him physically unharmed. This pattern of suffering for his art was beginning to feel unsustainable, especially as he approached his mid-50s and started questioning whether the fame and fortune were worth the personal cost. As Pesci stepped away from that golf ball and tried to shake off the disturbing feelings coursing through him, he began to seriously consider what his life might look like if he chose a different path entirely. The Great Escape. By the mid-1990s, Joe Pesci had already begun laying the groundwork for what would become one of Hollywood's most surprising and deliberate exits from fame, carefully orchestrating his departure, while most people in the industry remained completely unaware of his plans. The first major signal of his changing priorities came in 1998, when he released an album that would serve as both a creative statement and a farewell gesture to his acting career, titled Vincent LaGuardia Gambini Sings Just for You, named after his beloved character from My Cousin Vinny. This album represented much more than a typical celebrity vanity project, as it marked Pesci's return to his original artistic passion and demonstrated his serious commitment to music as a legitimate career path rather than just a hobby. The recording included a variety of musical styles and even featured a rap single, showcasing the versatility and creativity that Pesci had been forced to suppress during years of being typecast in similar roles. For those who knew him well, the album served as a clear indication that he was preparing to step away from the movie business and return to the art form that had first captured his imagination decades earlier. Meanwhile, his final major film appearances were telling signs of his growing disillusionment with the types of projects Hollywood was offering him. Both Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag and Gone Fishin' in 1997 represented a significant departure from the prestigious collaborations with Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro that had defined his career, and both films failed to connect with audiences or critics in any meaningful way. These disappointing experiences only reinforced Pesci's growing belief that the industry was no longer offering him the kind of challenging and fulfilling work that had originally drawn him to acting. The quality of scripts being sent his way had declined noticeably, with most roles simply asking him to repeat variations of characters he had already played countless times before. Pesci had expressed his frustration with this pattern in interviews, explaining that he wanted good roles rather than just starring roles, because appearing in bad movies would ultimately damage his reputation and legacy. His experience with these later films confirmed his worst fears about where his career was heading if he continued down the same path. When Pesci made his official retirement announcement in 1999, The decision shocked Hollywood insiders and fans alike. But for the actor himself, it represented the culmination of careful planning and soul-searching that had been building for several years. Unlike many celebrities who retire gradually or leave the door open for potential comebacks, Pesci's announcement was definitive and comprehensive, stating clearly that he was stepping away from acting to focus on his music career and to enjoy life away from the camera. The entertainment industry struggled to understand how someone at the peak of their earning potential and cultural influence could simply walk away from it all. But for Pesci, the decision represented a return to authenticity and personal fulfillment that fame and fortune had never been able to provide. Where are they now? For more than 2 decades, Joe Pesci has mastered the art of living in plain sight, while remaining virtually invisible to the Hollywood machine that once defined his every move, creating a carefully constructed life of privacy and tranquility that stands in stark contrast to the intense characters that made him famous. His journey toward this deliberately quiet existence began with one of the most significant decisions of his post-retirement life: selling the waterfront mansion in Lavallette, New Jersey, that had served as his primary residence since 1994. The 8-bedroom, 9-bathroom Art Deco mansion had been much more than just a home for Pesci. It was a museum of his career and a testament to his success, featuring walls decorated with posters from his films, a barber's chair from his pre-acting days, and even a Lethal Weapon 3 pinball machine. The 7,200-square-foot property sat on the Jersey Shore's West Point Island, complete with a waterfront pool, spa, and private pier leading directly to the Atlantic Ocean. When Pesci first listed the home for $6.5 million in 2019, he cited his desire to relocate to California to live among his peers and enjoy year-round sunshine. The sale process itself revealed just how disconnected Pesci had become from the real estate market and public attention. As the property initially struggled to find buyers, despite its impressive amenities and celebrity provenance. After being relisted multiple times, the mansion finally sold in 2021 for the full asking price of $6.5 million, representing a substantial profit from the $850,000 Pesci had originally paid for it. In a move that would have surprised many fans, the new owners demolished the entire structure in 2022, erasing this physical reminder of Pesci's Hollywood era and replacing it with 2 smaller homes. Today, Pesci splits his time between various coastal properties, maintaining residences that allow him to enjoy the privacy and natural beauty he has come to value above all else. His primary base appears to be in California, where he can blend in among other entertainment industry veterans who have similarly chosen quiet retirement over continued public engagement. However, Pesci's commitment to maintaining his anonymity means that specific details about his current living arrangements remain deliberately vague and well protected from public scrutiny. The occasional sightings that do surface paint a picture of a man who has successfully adapted to life outside the spotlight while still maintaining the charm and authenticity that made him beloved by audiences. A recent encounter in Palm Springs captured this perfectly when a reporter approached him on the street. And Pesci's response was characteristically honest and humble. "I try to stay incognito." Even when recognized and praised for his work, particularly the way Home Alone has become a cherished family tradition for multiple generations, Pesci accepts the attention graciously before quickly returning to his private world. New life, new purpose. In retirement, Joe Pesci has discovered that true contentment comes not from the applause of millions, but from the simple pleasure of a well-struck golf ball and the freedom to pursue his passions without the pressures of fame or public expectations. Golf has become the cornerstone of his daily routine, transforming from a stress relief hobby during his acting years into a genuine obsession that now defines much of his time and energy. With an impressive handicap of 15.9, Pesci has developed into a serious player who approaches the game with the same intensity and dedication that once characterized his most memorable film performances. The golf course has also become Pesci's primary social outlet, where he regularly plays with other entertainment industry veterans who share his appreciation for privacy and low-key friendship. His regular playing partners have included Hollywood legends like Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper, creating a small circle of celebrity golfers who can enjoy the game without worrying about paparazzi or public attention. These relationships represent the kind of authentic connections that Pesci has come to value far more than the superficial networking that dominated his years in the spotlight. Beyond the golf course, Pesci has successfully returned to his first love of music, releasing his third studio album, Still Singing, in 2019. More than 20 years after his previous recording, this album represents a mature, artistic statement from someone who no longer needs to prove anything to anyone, allowing him to explore musical styles and themes that genuinely interest him rather than what might be commercially successful. The fact that he chose to continue recording and releasing music well into his 70s demonstrates that this passion remains a vital part of his identity and creative expression. His approach to managing his wealth also reflects his new priorities, as Pesci has become a savvy real estate investor who prefers long-term stability over flashy purchases or risky ventures. Rather than accumulating expensive toys or luxury items that many celebrities use to display their success, Pesci has focused on building a portfolio of properties that provide both financial security and personal enjoyment. His investment strategy emphasizes conservative, well-researched decisions that align with his desire for privacy and his appreciation for beautiful, peaceful locations. The daily rhythm of Pesci's life now revolves around simple pleasures and personal fulfillment, rather than professional obligations or public appearances. Friends and acquaintances describe a man who has found genuine peace in routine activities like morning golf rounds, quiet dinners with close friends, and the occasional recording session when inspiration strikes. This deliberately simple lifestyle represents a complete reversal from the chaotic demands of his acting career, where every day brought new scripts to memorize, characters to inhabit, and public expectations to meet. What makes Pesci's transformation particularly remarkable is how completely he has embraced this new phase of life, showing no signs of missing the fame or excitement that once defined his existence. Personal transformation. The man who once struggled to distinguish between his violent screen personas and his real identity has undergone one of the most profound personal transformations in Hollywood history, evolving from an actor consumed by his characters into someone who has found genuine peace and clarity about who he truly is beneath all the roles he played. This transformation didn't happen overnight, but rather through years of deliberate choices and self-reflection that allowed Pesci to rediscover the person he had been before fame and typecasting began to define his existence. The most significant aspect of this change has been Pesci's ability to completely separate his identity from the volatile characters that made him famous, finally answering the question that had haunted him on that golf course decades earlier about who was really holding the club. Those close to him describe a man who has learned to appreciate the quieter aspects of life that were impossible to enjoy during his years in the spotlight, when every public appearance and interview required him to maintain a certain image or persona that often felt disconnected from his authentic self. Central to this transformation has been Pesci's embrace of what he calls the simple things that bring genuine happiness, a philosophy that stands in stark contrast to the complex psychological preparation required for his most demanding roles. His personal motto has become focused on the belief that success should not be measured by wealth or fame, but by the positive impact someone has on the people around them, a perspective that has guided his choices about how to spend his time and energy in retirement. Music has played a particularly important role in this personal evolution, serving not just as a creative outlet, but as a way for Pesci to reconnect with the artistic passion that first drew him to entertainment long before he ever appeared on screen. The process of writing, recording, and performing music allows him to express parts of his personality that were never visible in his film work, particularly his more gentle and introspective qualities that had to be suppressed when playing tough guys and criminals. Perhaps most importantly, Pesci has learned to be extremely selective about the relationships he maintains, choosing to surround himself with people who value authenticity and loyalty over fame or professional connections. This approach has resulted in a much smaller but significantly more meaningful social circle, consisting primarily of longtime friends who knew him before he became famous, and fellow retirees who share his appreciation for privacy and genuine conversation. The wit and authenticity that made Pesci so compelling on screen remain intact, but they now serve a different purpose in his daily life, helping him navigate the occasional public encounter with grace and humor while maintaining the boundaries he has established around his private world. Friends and acquaintances consistently describe someone who has retained all the charm and intelligence that made him a great actor, while completely eliminating the stress and intensity that once threatened to overwhelm his sense of self. Rare glimpses. The few public sightings of Joe Pesci in recent years have become almost mythical events for fans and entertainment journalists, offering tantalizing glimpses of a Hollywood legend who has successfully maintained his privacy while occasionally emerging to remind the world of his extraordinary talent. These rare appearances reveal a man who has grown comfortable with his decision to step away from the spotlight, while still possessing the same magnetic presence that made him one of cinema's most memorable performers. One of the most charming recent encounters occurred on the streets of Palm Springs, where a television reporter happened to recognize Pesci during what appeared to be a casual afternoon stroll. When approached with excitement and genuine admiration, Pesci responded with characteristic honesty and humor, admitting that he tries to stay incognito while graciously acknowledging the reporter's enthusiasm for his work. The brief conversation revealed someone who remains approachable and kind despite his efforts to maintain anonymity, particularly when the reporter shared how Home Alone has become a beloved family tradition watched every Christmas by multiple generations. Perhaps the most significant of these rare glimpses came in 2024 with his haunting performance in Day of the Fight, a black-and-white boxing drama directed by Jack Huston that showcased an entirely different side of Pesci's acting abilities. Playing the role of an Alzheimer's patient who has lost the ability to speak, Pesci delivered what many critics called one of the most powerful performances of his career, using only his eyes and facial expressions to convey decades of complex emotions and regret. The role was written specifically for Pesci, and director Huston later revealed that the actor consulted with neurologists to better understand how to accurately portray someone suffering from dementia, demonstrating the same commitment to authenticity that had defined his earlier work. The film's most emotionally devastating moment occurs when Pesci's character hears his own voice singing on an old record, and his eyes suddenly light up with recognition and fill with tears as the music triggers memories that had seemed lost forever. The song featured in this scene was actually performed by Pesci himself, taken from his 2019 album Still Singing, creating a deeply personal connection between the actor and his character that audiences found profoundly moving. Before this comeback, Pesci's most notable return to acting had been his Oscar-nominated performance in Martin Scorsese's The Irishman in 2019, a project that required extensive persuasion from his longtime collaborators Robert De Niro and Scorsese himself. Reports suggest that Pesci turned down the role approximately 50 times before finally agreeing to participate, demonstrating just how selective he had become about his rare acting projects. His subdued yet powerful portrayal of mobster Russell Bufalino proved that his skills had not diminished during his years away from the camera. More recently, Pesci made a surprising appearance in Pete Davidson's semi-autobiographical television series Bupkis in 2023, marking his first television work in decades and showing his willingness to support projects that genuinely interest him, regardless of their size or scope. No regrets. After more than 2 decades away from the Hollywood spotlight, Joe Pesci has developed a personal philosophy that stands as a powerful counter-argument to everything the entertainment industry typically teaches about success, happiness, and the pursuit of fame. His perspective on life has been shaped by the hard-won wisdom of someone who experienced the highest peaks of professional achievement, only to discover that true contentment lay in an entirely different direction than the one that had made him famous and wealthy. At the heart of Pesci's worldview is his belief that success should not be measured by the traditional markers of wealth or fame, but rather by the positive impact someone has on the lives of others around them. This philosophy represents a complete rejection of the Hollywood mentality that equates box office numbers and award recognition with personal worth, instead emphasizing the importance of genuine human connections and the smaller, more meaningful ways that people can make a difference in each other's lives. This perspective naturally extends to his thoughts about career fulfillment, as Pesci has consistently maintained that finding happiness and satisfaction in one's work is far more important than achieving financial success or public recognition. His own experience serves as a living example of this principle, having walked away from guaranteed millions of dollars and continued fame to pursue music and privacy because those choices aligned better with his authentic interests and values. The wisdom behind Pesci's selective approach to projects becomes clear when viewed through this lens, as he has chosen to participate only in work that genuinely resonates with him on a personal level, rather than accepting roles simply because they offer money or exposure. This explains why he turned down Martin Scorsese's offer to appear in The Irishman approximately 50 times before finally agreeing, and why his rare appearances in projects like Day of the Fight and Bupkis have been so carefully considered and deeply meaningful rather than driven by financial necessity or career ambition. Perhaps most importantly, Pesci's philosophy emphasizes that authentic relationships and personal passions provide a foundation for happiness that public recognition can never match or replace. His own journey from the chaos and intensity of Hollywood success to the peaceful routine of golf, music, and genuine friendships demonstrates how someone can build a fulfilling life based on their own values rather than external expectations or societal pressures. This approach has allowed Pesci to view his retirement not as an ending or a loss, but as a positive transformation that has brought him closer to the person he always wanted to be underneath all the characters he played. His lack of regret about leaving Hollywood behind speaks to the authenticity of his current choices and his genuine satisfaction with the life he has created for himself. The result is a man who has achieved something far rarer than fame or fortune: complete peace with his decisions and genuine contentment with a life built around personal values rather than public expectations or professional obligations.